When Wizardry came out, it was a game changer for traditional RPGs at the time, and a lot of games would model themselves after it. You had classics like The Bard's Tale and Wasteland. These games were classic and helped lay the ground for games like the Elder Scrolls series and the rebirth of the Fallout franchise. On the other hand, you had games like Swords and Serpents. These games really didn't do much and are, in my opinion, either cash-ins or slapped-together garbage to put out there. Today we are looking at a game that made me think, on what planet did Interplay Entertainment think this was any good, called Swords and Serpents? The development is pretty simple. It was developed by Interplay Entertainment, published by Acclaim, and released in September of 1990 for the NES. According to Wikipedia, this was also designed by one of the guys who worked on games like The Bard's Tale and Dragon Wars. So in essence, this could be a passable game considering how iconic The Bard's Tale would go on to be. On the other hand, it was published by Acclaim, so if it sucks, we could consider either Acclaim had a hand in its failure, or they were cursed in general for the entirety that were around. The story is pretty basic. You control a party of 4 adventurers on a dungeon-crawling quest to destroy a terrible serpent. Along the way, they will encounter numerous monsters, collect gold and treasure, while gaining experience points needed to get level ups. The graphics are half-assed for the NES. I know this game came out in 1990, but the game uses the power of the NES as a crutch. The dungeons are terrible. Every floor is the same color and really shows no difference between the shop and the shrine. The game instead tells you that you are standing where you can go shopping. This is made even worse by how long it takes to do anything at all. It takes 5 seconds to get into any menu, and I hope you know what you're doing, because it gets even worse when it says you can't do it because that character doesn't have spells, or you find yourself in the wrong person's inventory and you gotta quit out and you gotta do the whole thing again. This makes doing stuff such as shopping and so forth an absolute chore. This is the least of its worries because the fights are even worse looking than the levels. The monsters look pretty decent though. They have a lot of detail for a 1990 game. They are big, messy, and in general look like it would be something in a PC style game. The problem is how they go about showing how many enemies there are in an encounter. It shows what monster you are fighting, then wastes a lot of space by putting health meters on the side where the map would normally be for every enemy. This goes against every RPG like Wizardry, and in general it looks dumb. Here's why it sucks in my opinion. In other RPGs of its time, games like The Bard's Tale or Might and Magic, they will have a picture of the enemy, and then if there are more than one of that enemy, they'll put a number next to it. Swords and Serpents shows the enemy, then a small picture with a health bar next to it. This uses up so much room and it looks even worse 5 or 10 years down the line. The audio is also bad. I know again it's 1990 and should be expected. The problem is that the 2 tracks I heard before I gave up playing it were so bad it hurt. They just drone on and on. The sound effects are no better either. The effect that is used for healing is so low pitched that it's headache inducing. This might be one of the top 30 most annoying sounding games I have ever heard on the NES. So with this trend of the graphics being half-assed and the music being horrible, the gameplay has to be salvageable, and it's not. This is one of the most tedious RPGs I have ever played. It's not as tedious or as bad as Breath of Fire and Dragon Core, but it's on my top 15 worst RPGs on a console. So with this trend of the graphics being half-assed and the music being horrible, the gameplay has to be salvageable, and it's not. This is one of the most tedious RPGs I have ever played. It's not as tedious or as bad as Breath of Fire and Dragon Core, but it's in my top 15 worst on a console. As we know, the game plays like Wizardry or The Bard's Tale. The big thing the game had that was considered unique was that this game was one of the few NES games that had 4-player co-op. So what makes this game bad? Well, there are 3 big things that makes it bad, but first, the good parts about the game. Trust me, I had to scrape for anything nice to say about its gameplay. The first is that the controls are decent. Moving around and fighting enemies is easy enough. Press up to move forward in the direction you are facing. Everything else is told with on-screen instructions. The game also feels a lot more accessible than other games. This can be used as an entry-level game for people to get into the genre at the time. This comes at the cost of its gameplay, but more on that in a little bit. So how does it screw the pooch? Well, let me count the ways. Strike number 2 against Swords and Serpents, the map system is absolutely useless. When you first see it, it's not so bad. You walk around, revealing terrain with a map to the side. Where Interplay screwed up is that it will only show the last 2 floors you visited. So if you go to floor number 3, the map for floor 1 will disappear when you enter it again. This is such a stupid idea. Why would you lead players to believe that you don't need to draw maps on a game that's in a genre where it was notorious for you needing to draw your own map? and then take an earlier map away. Sure, people still drew them as a just-in-case measure, but this is stupidly dickish. Like, do one or the other, man. Come on. The last strike against Swords and Serpents is that the game uses a password system. This is a potentially 40-hour-long game. Why not have it very backup? Final Fantasy, Legend of Zelda, and many other games have one. This is why we remember those and not yours. Plus, it's not that it's a password system, period. If it was 4 to 10 letters or something simple, I'd be fine with it. The problem is that it's long. You need to write a password down for each character and one for the game itself. Congratulations, Swords and Serpents, you have just reached highlight level stupidity. Put all these elements together and you have one of the most tedious RPGs of all time. I'm not giving it a pass because it came out in 1990. Interplay should have known better, and they flat out made one of the worst playing RPGs of all time in my opinion. Thankfully they would port The Bard's Tale a year later. Overall, Swords and Serpents is a terrible game. Back in 1990, this might have been an okay game. Problem is, looking back at it, it's an awful RPG. There must be a curse behind Acclaim publishing or developing before and after Mortal Kombat. If you want to play a first-person RPG from this era, then go play Phantasy Star. This is Shalot, and should be treated as such. I give it a 3 out of 10.